Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Dave's Faves. And here I'm responding to a request because a couple of you have said, "Oh, please, Dave, you've got to review or talk about the Kempe Richard Strauss box." And it is unquestionably one of Dave's faves, as it is your fave. Everybody who likes Richard Strauss has to have the Kempe Strauss box. It's that simple. And I'm presuming it's still out there. I think it is. I saw it quite recently, and they redid the EMI thing to be Warner and all that, so it's available. Anyway, it contains 9 CDs of Richard Strauss orchestral music. That is not all of it by quite a few CDs, but it's a lot of it. It's most of the most important stuff, and the performances are extraordinary. But in order to talk about the Strauss box here with Kempe, I had to get the right props because, Strauss, as some of you may be aware, is musical junk food. Strauss himself said that he was not a first-rate composer, but he was a very good second-rate composer, which is really very true. And there is also very, very good junk food. And so I had to have the right stuff. And so I ordered, just for this particular chat, a wonderful, warm, luscious little container here of Auntie Anne's pretzels. Oh my goodness, these are good. And these pretzel nugget things, which are absolutely extraordinary. They have, they're these yummy little soft, warm pretzel things with butter juice sort of slurped all over them. And they're just amazing. Yummy. So now that we have our junk food, that is the physical stuff, and the musical stuff, we can talk about Strauss. Okay. Now, let's see what's in here, shall we? Okay. You get a good booklet. I don't know if it's still there, but there was a good booklet once upon a time. And these 9 discs. Now, Kempe was one of those very, very interesting German conductors in that he was a chord guy. He really was. He was a chord guy. He was not a line guy. That means he wasn't at his best in the standard German repertoire that depends on linearity, like Bach and Beethoven and those people. He was a real, genuine, late romantic orchestral wizard. He liked stuff that had luscious, tactile stuff. But unlike Karajan, who was also a chord guy, Karajan had this very, very distinctive sense of sonority that was heavily biased towards the strings. Kempe wasn't like that. Kempe was biased, if he had a bias at all, which I don't really think he did, but toward the winds, which is so important in great orchestration. And that means that he was wonderful in all of those romantic, colorful showpieces and all that. I mean, he just was marvelous in that music. And I'm going to do a Kempe conductor thing, his 10 best recordings too. Fear not, it's coming. But that made him fabulous in Strauss. Absolutely fabulous. It really did. And this is such a great set because not only do you have Kempe, but you have the Staatskapelle Dresden, which was the great German orchestra. Take that, Berlin Philharmonic. Ha! They really were. They were a wonderful, wonderful orchestra. They had everything the Berlin Philharmonic did not. Lightness, transparency, wonderful differentiation between the sections, and the ability to play all of this heavy-duty orchestration and make it sound, as Strauss himself said when speaking of Elektra, he said, play it like Mendelssohn. And he meant it. He wanted his music to have that sort of buoyancy because God knows if the orchestra didn't supply it, he wasn't going to. I mean, Strauss was just orchestrating in his usual al fresco excessive way. And so it's up to the players to render it with the necessary elegance and transparency. And there really is elegance in Strauss, a lot of it, even in his goofier moments. So let's just go through here and have some fun, shall we? I'm not going to eat any more of Auntie Anne's pretzels because I won't be able to talk. And I may choke to death, and that would not be a fun thing, especially if it happened on video. So first, disc number 1, we get Horn Concertos 1 and 2, the Oboe Concerto, and the Duet Concertino. Now, this music covers Strauss's whole career. The first Horn Concerto is one of his earliest works, written for his father, the famous horn player who played in the premiere of, for example, Tristan and Isolde and whatnot. And all the rest of this stuff is very, very late. And very, very late Strauss is very, very notey Strauss. It has lots and lots and lots of notes. And so you want to play them with the appropriate nimbleness. And my goodness, these people do. I actually have, they don't list the player on the back of this. And I really ought to be kind and tell you who these soloists are, because they are exceptionally good. So wait one second. Let me see who the hornist is. The hornist is, there we go, Peter Dam, horn, who's marvelous, absolutely marvelous. The oboist is Manfred Clement, and in the Duet Concertino for clarinet, bassoon, and strings, and also there's a harp in there too, but they don't mention that. It's Manfred Weise, clarinet, and Wolfgang Liebscher, bassoon. The Duet Concertino is really a strange and lovely little work. It's quite wonderful. Okay, so that's disc number 1. Disc number 2. Let's see, what have we got here? Oh, the burlesca, all the piano stuff, and the Paragon to the Symphonia Domestica, and the Panathenaenzug. Can you believe I pronounced that? That's what it is. It's a Panathenaenzug, which means basically Athenian religious procession to the temple. That's what a Panathenaenzug is. Why he called it that, well, who the hell knows. Anyway, these piano pieces are very, very odd. The burlesca is brilliant. It's really a piano concerto in one movement, and it's one of the most difficult and exciting piano pieces of its epoch. And again, that's early Strauss, and we have Malcolm Frager, the pianist. And then in the other 2 works, which are both for piano left hand, which is really, really tough, it's Peter Rösel. And the Panathenaenzug is subtitled Symphonic Etudes in the form of a Passacaglia. Boy, is that pushing it, isn't it? That's a lot to get done in only 27 minutes. Well, it's long. And again, these are middle period Straussy things from like the 1920s and 30s, and that part of his life. That's late Strauss, but middle period of the operas actually. And they are difficult. They are difficult to take. They are difficult to listen to. They are extremely busy, because he's trying to cover up the fact that the left hand has, just a left hand and really wants to have a right hand, but it doesn't. And so he's got to keep things hopping as much as he possibly can. But they are kind of fun. I think the Panathenaenzug is a better work than the Paragon. The Paragon means an appendix, a extra little sort of thing to the Sinfonia Domestica, and it's based on the theme of the baby, do 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 do, that thing. It's fun, but I don't think it's one of Strauss's better pieces. But I think the Panathenaenzug is actually rather cool. It really is. Disc 3. Let me just do it from the booklet. That makes life easier because it's much more readable. All right, disc 3 is Till Eulenspiegel, Don Juan, and Ein Heldenleben. Boy, that's a lot of stuff on one disc. It's 75 minutes, which tells you something about Kempe's performances. They're very quick. They're wonderfully quick. They're deliciously quick. Don Juan is so exciting. It just goes like the wind. And Eulenspiegel is full of character and rambunctious zest. And even Ein Heldenleben, which, it's such a tough piece to bring off because it bogs down into nothingness. Kempe really brings out the humor in the piece. I mean, it is a caricature. The battle especially is a caricature, but the whole piece is a caricature. And it needs to have lightness and humor, not this heavy, horrible Ikarion, which is unlistenable, I think. It's slow and turgid and murky, but this is just the opposite. It's fun. It's actually fun. It's one of the great Heldenlebens ever, and it's just delicious, absolutely delightful. Then we get the Violin Concerto in D minor with Ulf Holscher, which is a very, very early work, and it's actually quite charming. It's not particularly memorable, but it's a good work. And the Sinfonia Domestica, which is, it's the Sinfonia Domestica. What can you say about it? I actually enjoy the Sinfonia Domestica, not least because it's one of the few tone poems that ends loudly. And it is spectacularly played here, but it's not going to win any awards for either, taste or effectiveness. But some people love it, and I do. I just like it. I like it like I like Auntie Annie's pretzel nugget things slathered with butter and whatnot. It's not really good for you, and that you could probably find something that would be, more enriching, but you don't care because they just taste good. And that's the way the Symphonia Domestica is. It's just fun to listen to. Then we've got Also Sprach Zarathustra, Death and Transfiguration, and the Der Rosenkavalier waltzes. Now, this Zarathustra is not my favorite performance on the disc. I just think this is one piece that needs to have more philosophical pretension. And Kempe was just too wise to what Strauss was doing to sort of suck it up and let it do its thing. It has all the virtues of the other performances, but the opening needs more grandeur. And I think the waltz can be done with a little less taste and refinement than these players bring to it. But that's okay. It's part and parcel of the performances. Death and Transfiguration is excellent, and also not one that spends, ages mooning about the death parts. It gets hopping pretty quickly, and it just keeps going. Rosenkavalier stuff is marvelous. Then we get Salome's Dance of the Seven Veils, which is just terrific. Salome is nice and sexy. And the suite from the Bourgeois Gentilhomme, which is really, really wonderfully played. My goodness, and it's chamber music anyway, or chamber orchestra stuff anyway, and the performance has such nimbleness, such deftness, and all those light, airy qualities. You believe it's French, and that's an important thing. It really is. It just sounds French, which is the best thing I can say about it. And then the waltzes from Schlagobers. Schlagobers is the dumbest thing Strauss ever wrote. Probably it's a ballet about a kid who eats too much candy and gets sick and goes to sleep. And when he's not puking, he's dreaming that the candy are all coming to life and jumping around. It's just so stupid. And he wrote it right after World War I, after Vienna had been destroyed, and the Viennese were certainly not in the mood for a light, frothy candy store pre-World War I confection type thing. And, but Strauss was oblivious to things like that. And this piece is pretty oblivious. Then we get Joseph's Legenda, whatever you call it, Joseph's Legend. The Legend of Joseph, Symphonic Fragment. Now, these complete ballets are available now, and people have heard them. Joseph's stuff is not so bad. Strauss, of course, hated Joseph because he was a good guy. But, and so he wasn't terribly interested in the project. It was a Diaghilev commission, if I'm not mistaken, for the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. But, it's really not terrible. It really is. It's much better than Schlagobers. Let's put it that way. If you had your choice. If this is Joseph's Legenda, or whatever you want to call it, this is Joseph's Legenda, then Schlagobers is I don't know what to tell you. It's just, there's junk food and there's junk food. Schlagobers is just a bag of Fritos. I don't know what to, call it what you will. Think of the junkiest junk food you can get your hands on. It's just, okay. Metamorphosen comes next. In quite wonderfully done. An Alpine Symphony is on there. We're on disc 7 already. Now, this Alpine Symphony, Kempe did a couple of these pieces twice. He did Don Quixote with the Berlin Philharmonic. He did a bunch of these things. He did Don Juan, I think, with the Berlin Philharmonic. And some people prefer the Berlin Philharmonic ones because it's with the Berlin Philharmonic. And I'm not one of them, I have to say. Although the Don Quixote is swings and roundabouts, depending on how you want to slice it. He also did the Alpine Symphony with the Royal Philharmonic. It sounds better. It's sonically better than this one. This is the one version that, recording that which sonically is a little bit less great than the others. And in the Alpine Symphony, you want something that's going to simply blow you through the roof. And the performance itself is marvelous. but it could be sonically more powerful. There's no question about that. Then we get Alpine Italian, which I really like. Alpine Italian is pretty. It's just a nice, pretty four-movement fake tone poem symphony. And, that's, of course, the piece that caused the lawsuit, because the finale has funiculi, funicula in it, the tune, ta-da, ta-da, ba-da, ba-da, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And Strauss, who was a huge proponent of composers' rights, got sued by the composer of funiculi, funicula, Luigi Denza, who was a vocal coach working in London, I think at the time, at the Royal Academy or whatever it was. And Strauss's reaction when he found out that Denza was suing him was, "You mean somebody actually wrote that?" He thought it was a folk tune. Oh, poor Strauss. And he lost. And then we have Macbeth, which is oodles of fun. Of course, my favorite recording of that one is the Yarvi, because it's got the tam-tam from hell in it. But, what's not to like? It's the most neglected of all the late, the major tone poems. It's not late, but it's major. It's with the big group of tone poems, and no one pays attention to Macbeth. And it's really a good work. Truly, it really is. It's quite wonderful. And then Don Quixote we have here, which is just terrific. We're on disc 9. We're coming to the end with Paul Tortelier and Mac Rostal, cello and viola. And last but not least, the Dance Suite from Harpsichord Pieces by Couperin. Now, that is a terrific arrangement. And there are two of them. There's this, and then there's the divertimento, or whatever it's called. And then you slam them together, and you get the ballet Verklugene Feste, whatever they called it, Forgotten Festivals, or, it doesn't make any difference what they call it. It's delicious. You really must hear it. It's wonderful. And one of the nicest things about this collection, which I am now going to put away, is that you get a lot of Strauss that you don't normally hear. And for many, many years, many decades even, this was the only place to get that stuff, because nobody else was recording sort of that at post-tone poem, post-Rosenkavalier type Strauss. The ballet suites, even if Schlagober sucks, you couldn't hear that music. And so this was our opportunity. And the performances were so good, I think nobody bothered to make new ones for many years after that either. So, for the piano works and for some of these other things, it really was the only show in town. And what a good one it is. So unquestionably one of Dave's faves is Rudolf Kempe and the Staatskapelle Dresden 9-disc set on Warner Classics playing Richard Strauss orchestral music. You must have it in your collection, because I have it in mine. And that's good enough reason for some of us anyway. I mean, and everyone else has. I mean, it's not me. Trust me. This is a classic from the word go. And you should also try Auntie Anne's delicious little pretzel nugget things, if there's one in your area. They're very bad for you, and you're going to feel so good for having eaten them. Anyway, just like this. Keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.